don't try and erase entertainment history like this Community episode, because you assume that people aren't intelligent enough to understand the context of what they're watching, that the audience is incapable of getting a joke, that we should judge past art through the lens of today and remove things based on our continually evolving perspective of the world. You aren't doing anyone any favors. Hi guys, Geeter64 here, and today I'm going to talk about censorship. I'm also going to be talking about the TV show Community and the importance of physical media in today's streaming world. Now, I've talked about this before. It's been almost a year since I did my case for physical media video. I spelled out several reasons for the importance of physical media, one of which was the ability to maintain film as it was released, in the form it was released. Recent choices from Hollywood and streaming giants continue to prove me right, despite how much I wanted to be proven wrong on this point. Streaming and censorship are unfortunately becoming synonymous terms. Thank you for joining me. Let's go ahead and get right into this. I hold in my hands the complete season of Community. Complete season. This is something you cannot get from any streaming service, as both Netflix and Hulu have chosen to remove one of the greatest episodes produced by Community. The episode I'm talking about is called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It's from season 2 of the show. Now, when I heard this episode was removed, I figured that it would be a temporary thing. After all, Gone with the Wind was removed by HBO Max, but it did return to the platform with a 5-minute video introduction giving some historical context to the movie. But the complete unedited movie is available, so there is no censorship there. And I personally think it's good to give people context if they don't understand what Gone with the Wind is. Community, on the other hand, is still missing one of its greatest episodes, and I don't know when or if it'll ever be re-added. Now, I waited to do this video on this because I honestly thought they would have re-added this episode by this point, but it's been 3 months and still not up. Can't find it. If you try and find the episode on Hulu, it simply skips over season 2, episode 14, going from 13 to 15. At least someone who checked out the show for the first time can visually see that the episode is missing. However, when you try to go to the episode on Netflix, it removes all evidence of its existence, labeling episode 15 early 21st century romanticism as the new episode 14. There's no trace of the real episode 14, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, to be had on Netflix. If you're not familiar with Community or this episode, you're probably asking what was so bad that this episode needed to be removed. Well, in the episode, Chang dresses as his character in the D&D game, who is a dark elf. He is jet black, wears a white wig, and pointy ears. The concern from Netflix, Hulu, and apparently Sony Pictures is that this is offensive. Now, I never talk about politics or social perspectives on this channel because I want to talk about the tangible merits of movies and TV, and I don't want to talk about that, and very rarely does that come into play. However, in my opinion, this is not a political or social issue. This is an issue of censorship, something we should all be concerned about. If you were offended by Chang or not, that's up to you. However, any objective person who's seen this episode knows exactly what this is, which is an over-the-top comedic character cosplaying as an elf in a Dungeons and Dragons game. There is nothing racial about it. There is nothing racial behind it. And the only people who should probably be offended by it are dark elves. But seeing as they're a fictional race, I don't think they were consulted in the removal of this episode.
Just been proven racist by the racist prover.
So I'm going to assume two things. We all agree blackface is hateful, and that what happened in this episode is not that. There was nothing hateful here. This is no different than cosplaying a Cleon from Star Trek. It's a fictional race. The intent is not to mock or hate anyone. It is just to enjoy fandom in an over-the-top manner. It's not what I would do, but that's not the point. The character Shirley even makes a comment in this episode where she says,
So we just gonna ignore that hate crime, huh?
I'm a dark elf or a drow.
For those who aren't as big a geek as me, this is a picture of a drow from D&D. The reason for that exchange with Shirley is to point out the ridiculousness of conflating the idea of blackface with pretending to be a fictional race of elves. It is quickly resolved by context between two characters talking, not yelling at each other. Shirley wouldn't know anything about Drow. That's not her character. She didn't know anything about D&D, so she's not wrong in her statement upon seeing Chang. Chang explains exactly what this is, and that's it. It's dropped. It's meant to be a joke.
It's riot time!
What makes this all the worse is that this episode is honestly in the top 5 of the series for me and addresses a lot of really important topics. In the episode, the group is only playing Dungeons & Dragons to make someone feel better. None of them have basically played it before. The episode is about making people feel included. It's about not judging people based on their physical appearance, which is ironic considering why these dumb studios decided to remove the episode. The episode is also about being careful with your words, because once they're out in the world, you can't take them back. It's about anti-bullying, mental health, suicide prevention, very important topics. And all of these things are addressed in a 22-minute episode with tons of laughs and levity. What makes this show so good is its characters and its story, and it's very tight-knit. And now people can't watch this episode on streaming due to 3 minutes of screen time from Chang as a dark elf. It's such a disservice. When I introduce Community to new people, Dungeons & Dragons is usually the first episode I pick to share. As I said, it's a very fast-paced, tight episode. It's funny, and it has a positive message. I personally played Dungeons & Dragons with my friends specifically because of this episode. I had no interest in playing the game before I watched this episode of Community. I didn't want to play Dungeons & Dragons. But this episode made it seem like such a fun group activity, which it is, especially if you play a drunk dwarf who's also a drunk human in real life. So due to the removal of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, I ordered the complete season of Community on Blu-ray so that I can enjoy the show as it was intended in its entirety. Now, I rewatch this show at least once a year, so I'll get my money's worth out of this set. What really has me concerned is the continued censorship of old shows and movies. Most people watch their media through streaming. That's their library. So imagine someone coming into your home and taking a disc from your shelf, and they tell you that movie or show is not appropriate for you. Then they walk out the door with it and you never see it again. Not only did they take something that was yours, but they had the gall to come and tell you what you were permitted to watch. If you want to do something like what they did with Gone with the Wind, where you put something informative or context or whatever at the beginning of the movie or episode, that's one thing, that's fine. But don't try and erase entertainment history like this Community episode, because you assume that people aren't intelligent enough to understand the context of what they're watching, that the audience is incapable of getting a joke, that we should judge past art through the lens of today and remove things based on our continually evolving perspective of the world. You aren't doing anyone any favors by erasing potentially offensive entertainment, because being offended almost in all cases is subjective. That's why it's better to make it available and let people judge for themselves. Again, this is why physical media is important. It used to be that once upon a time, the main reason for physical media was to maintain original cuts of Star Wars. Like, our biggest concern was more special edition versions of the original trilogy coming out from George Lucas, or the 5th or 6th version of Blade Runner potentially taking the place of the version that we like the best. But now we have to worry about anything potentially offensive being removed from history, which is a target that will always move. That is a big deal, guys. It is something that I just didn't want to stay silent on. That's why I'm making this. This is not political. This is entertainment history being censored, altered, and completely removed. Anyone who enjoys entertainment should be concerned about this. We have to push back on this. And of course, there are bigger things in the world than this, but this is what I talk about on my channel: movies, TV, physical media. So with that in mind, the erasing and censorship of entertainment history needs to be discussed. When I looked into this, I saw that other shows had episodes removed as well, both Scrubs and 30 Rock. Now, I've never seen 30 Rock. I have seen most of Scrubs, but I don't remember the episodes that got removed. I don't remember watching them, so I'm not going to say that I know the context of those episodes, but I do know about Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and Community very well, and this was clearly not meant to be offensive at all. This is about censorship. You know, I don't want to conflate these two ideas. This is about removing entertainment history. More episodes from more shows could disappear from streaming platforms and history. And with streaming being the primary source of content for the vast majority of people, these episodes could eventually fade into oblivion. Imagine Blazing Saddles or Bad News Bears being locked away in a vault somewhere. Imagine Star Trek episodes just deleted. They may get rid of that episode with the black and white aliens from the original series. The episode is actually about the ridiculousness of discrimination, but the story doesn't matter, only that half their face is black, right? We gotta have that removed. This may sound ridiculous, but a few years ago, the idea of them removing this Community episode would have been laughable as well. Yet here we are in 2020 and streaming giants are erasing episodes. It really is sad that an episode with great themes of inclusion and anti-bullying is now gone, and it's all thanks to big corporations who superficially decide what is offensive without context or humor. If you watch this show on streaming, you're missing out on very important episode, and I suggest buying the series if you're able. Physical media remains important, and I hope it doesn't go away. Otherwise, episodes like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons could be lost to time. We may find ourselves living in a draconian system in which your entertainment is tightly restricted and censored, locked away from an audience who apparently cannot discern for themselves what is and is not offensive. We all apparently need to be protected from thinking by big corporations, put into soft rooms where nothing ever happens. And as physical media becomes more of a niche market, these streaming companies gain more control over your entertainment. And I'm not saying streaming is inherently bad. That's not the point of this video. I have multiple streaming services and use them often. They are convenient and allow a space for shows and movies that didn't exist and couldn't exist prior to streaming. But as with any company, having too much control or monopoly is just not good. Just look at what's happening with Disney. Controlling too much of the market space can lead to controlling too much of your entertainment, controlling what you can and can't see, and that is censorship. Well, what do you all think? Have you seen Community or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons? What do you think about it being removed? What do you think about censorship and physical media? Please keep it civil in the comments. I want to thank you all for joining me. This was a heavier subject than what I normally cover. When I say I will tell you the truth, it is meant to be light and kind of joking, lighthearted. But I do take that seriously. We will be getting back to some more positive topics. That's what I like to talk about, positive things.
Huzzah!
Censorship is important, and with everything going on, I think it's just not getting the attention it would get otherwise. I just hope that everyone is doing well and staying safe. Thank you, subscribers. You all are awesome. And if you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, or don't. I'm not a beggar. I'm GeekTrue64.
The magician.
Smash accuser, baby. And I'll always tell you the truth.